use cayenne, golden seal, hyssop, witch hazel, holy thistle, or you can combine these things. Most of the time we use the red clover and the cayenne and the golden seal actually, or a little hyssop. Now we're back to this indigestion again. This time it's cholera for infants. We call it infantum. So we're back to treating the digestive problems, which can be caused by the milk. It can cause indigestion to occur. So we're trying to relieve that indigestion. In a child, usually the mints are better. The red raspberry leaves are good. And if you have to do an enema, then you're going to use the red raspberry and the bayberry bark internally. You don't want to use anything that's going to irritate the child's system. So the yarrow flowers are mild tasting, but the yarrow root is bitter. So you may want to use yarrow flowers with some wild cherry bark for its flavor in red raspberry. But generally red raspberry and peppermint or catnip are the best combination for any kind of infant kind of disorders. We've gone over the colds or mucus congestion or catarrh, as it's sometimes called. And we're back to those same kind of respiratory herbs. As we mentioned before, Indian hip helps open up the pores. It's a diaphoretic. And we back to the yarrow, which is good, along with the bayberry. Catnip helps calm the condition. Sage is astringent. Peppermint helps to relieve the congestion of the mucosal membrane. Indian hip opens the pores. Nettle is good for the skin. Pleurisy and specific C helps get rid of that mucus. Pleurisy, elecampane, colt's foot, horehound, mullein, chickweed, those kind of respiratory herbs. Basically, it's a shotgun formula. If you look at it, you don't know what to do, because you have these relaxants here to help relax the lungs so they can get rid of the waste. Then you have astringent to close down the pores and eject the waste. So you got two seesaw kind of combinations there. So sometimes it's difficult to make a good choice. Ginger is good for water retention. It's good for colds. It's good for relieving irritation of the throat. And golden seal, as I mentioned before, is a good all-around herb to just keep at all times in your house. Sarsaparilla, good for the mucosal membrane tissue. Saw palmetto, good for the prostate and the fallopian tubes and mucosal tissue in general. And when you have colds, it involves mucosal tissue of the lungs or nasal passage and nasal cavity. Colic, well, that's indigestion again, and therefore you're going to go to the kitchen and you'll find all those things for indigestion or digestive type herbs in your kitchen. The caraway seeds, the dill, the fennel, the oregano, the peppermint, the spearmint, the savory. Most of the herbs you use for seasoning are good for digestion. So generally just go to the seasonings and use those. And colon trouble, basically I don't know what's causing the trouble. That's when you look at these forms, you see colon trouble. Well, what's causing it? I don't know. So in this case, you underline the peppermint because it helps open up the pores, expect the waste. Then you have the aloes, which is a laxative, help you get rid of the waste. And then we have slip around, which is not a laxative, which helps slip the waste out of the colon. And white oak bark, which is an astringent kind of quality, and golden seal. Problem is that most of the time people use the wrong food combinations and they may be stressed, and these things can cause the colon trouble. Consumption disease, just another name for colds. The lungs, the tubules, tuberculosis. We have the colt's foot again, the skunk cabbage, the comfrey, the horehound, the elecampane. I mentioned the pleurisy before. That's just another type of cold. So we're trying to use the herbs and trying to decipher why they put these combinations when you look in these herb books, so you won't get all that confused. Yeah, so let's look at some more herbal remedies. Hydrophobia is mostly, hydro means water, phobia means fear, so that's fear of water. That's some kind of a nervous kind of condition, basically an old term for it. So they're using lobelia to settle the nerves, and skull cap for the nerves. So they're basically using things for the nerves here. Hiccups is again the digestive problem, trying to alkaline your system. Since it gets too acid and it goes into the hiccup kind of state. So they use the blue cohosh, the dill, the Indian hip, and the orange juice. Sometimes lemon, raw lemon squeeze and ginger and gargle will relieve the condition of chewing on a licorice stick or something of that nature. For hair, to stimulate the growth, the Indian hip. Nettle is the most popular herb used for the hair, by the way. Rosemary prevents hair from falling out, so you would use nettle and rosemary. Rosemary increases the blood to the skull, blood perfusion to the brain as well. Then we have sage and peach and burdock. But I would say the nut